Hey, let's face it, you're never gonna swing like Jake Knapp. You're never gonna reach 130 miles an hour of clubhead speed while looking this effortless. You're probably never going to squat 365 pounds, and you're probably never gonna bench press 265 pounds. And one thing is for darn certain, and that is you're never gonna be in your 20s again either. And so does that mean that Jake Knapp's swing has no value and is just fun to watch on repeat? No, actually we can see a lot of improvement in our driver game by incorporating some of the hallmarks of Jake Knapp's swing into ours. And by the end of this video, you're gonna have some great tips and drills that are gonna help you move at least a little bit in this direction, and you will feel like you're hacking into the speed formula. So Jake Knapp has a wonderful swing to emulate, and from the 30,000 foot perspective, I would describe his swing as being unhurried, rhythmic, certainly effortless. He also looks very relaxed and supple. Now the first thing to me that jumps off the screen is how long and wide Jake Knapp's backswing is. It has an incredibly large shoulder turn and a good strong pass parallel position at the top of the swing. Now, while most of us may not be able to twist far enough anymore to get here, you certainly can move in this direction with a little bit of a speed hack using your scapula or your shoulder blades. Now, the scapula are designed to slide away from and towards the spine. So it's easy to manipulate the scapula. You can first start with your lead scapula, and if you stand like this and try not to twist at all, and see if you can bring your shoulder as far under your chin as you possibly can. And when you do this, you can even take this hand and pull on it a little bit. When you do this, you see you're pulling away the shoulder blade from the spine. You might even be able to feel some of those muscles in the upper back stretching a bit. Now in the right scapula, you're going to do the opposite. You're going to pull it by using kind of a rowing motion. You're going to pull that scapula against the spine, kind of retract it backwards. And what you're going to do when you do both of these things together is you can kind of sneak 20, 30 or more degrees into your shoulder turn without twisting. Look at that. My torso is hardly twisting at all, and yet I'm making a pretty big shoulder turn because I am bringing those shoulder blades into play. Now I'm using the Power Coil Pro to get a full wind up. You can see how close this 55-year-old body can get to winding up as big and wide as Jake Knapp. We just need a little bit of assistance, but if we practice this every day and get nice and stretched out and stay very flexible, we can keep our swing and our hand path nice and wide and long, and that gives us potential for a ton of distance. Another thing that Jake Knapp does just incredibly well is how he goes through his full wrist range of motion, and he does it very quickly and supply. Now you can see at the top of his swing, he's pretty close to 90 degrees of wrist cock to the left forearm and wrist. But what's interesting, like a lot of pros on TV, that 90 degrees actually kind of turns into 100 degrees as he starts the club down. So he's actually at first very slightly increasing the cock of the wrists as he starts the downswing, and then quickly uncocking them to catch up again, and then re-hinging them to 90 degrees here by the time he reaches right arm at 2 o'clock. He's one of the best I've ever seen at this. So he's articulating the club head around the wrist, around this bone right here, more than 180 degrees, effortlessly, supply. He's not trying to pull the club through. He is throwing the club head around the wrist, almost like you might see, someone in a marching band twirl a baton. Now here's a great drill for you to start to emulate what he's doing there and get more lag and more release speed, more wrist hinge on both directions, and that's this. I just take a stick, I'm going to use the index finger of my right hand, and I'm going to pin that thing against my shoulder. See, I'm pinning it against the shoulder, so I am simulating a ton of wrist cock coming down, just like this. Now, for some of you, you have a hard time doing this at first because your wrist doesn't bend this far, but With some practice, your flexibility will increase and you'll stretch the same, wrist muscles stretch the same as any other muscle. So we're going to pin it. Now I'm going to heave over to my left foot and turn my body through while I'm holding this against my shoulder. So something like this, heave it through. And now I'm going to throw this thing and I'm going to come into this position here with the elbow now starting to fold, and this wrist is turned back upwards like this. So here's what I'm doing with the left arm. Let's break it down. I'm going to do a 180-degree turn of the thumb from the shoulder down. The next thing I will be doing is a flexion at the elbow, and I'm going to be doing a raise of the wrist. So altogether that looks like this. And notice I'm going to put some space out here. I'm not going to be back here with my elbow, but I'm going to swing that thing out away from my rib cage. Now, if you can articulate this thing quickly about the wrist without pulling. Now, watch how, as I make this move, the handle of the club stays in front of me. Usually when I hand this to people for the first time, they are pulling this thing and ending out, they're trying to do that with it. They're trying to pull the handle through. Now I can't get any swoosh. Listen, very little swoosh there. But while I am going through this motion, and I can keep this arm in front of my chest, look at that. You can start getting a very large amount of speed into the tip of this stick. In fact, I've been able to go well over 160 miles an hour when I fully wind up and swing it this way. So we're going to be pinning it, heave and turn. Notice how I step from right foot to left as I rotate my body open, and now swoosh that thing and let the elbow fold just like that. So big wrist cock, pin it, step over and heave and turn, and whip that tip of that thing at the wrist without trying to pull on it, and let the elbow fold into position. This is a major skill difference between somebody on tour like Jake Knapp and the average golfer, and it has nothing to do with strength, it has nothing to do with size, it has to do with moving the club head efficiently by moving the joints efficiently too. Now conversely, most average golfers don't have the right arm doing anything close to what it can be doing like Jake Knapp or other people on tour are doing in order to get some speed going. What I see most amateurs doing is this right elbow never straightens. This right wrist never throws, so they reach a follow through looking like this, and then they generally tend to stop there. So let's put Jake Knapp at the 2 o'clock position with the right arm, and you can see this is absolutely phenomenal. One of the big secrets to why he's able to make that club whistle so fast through impact, and yet he's looking so effortless, unbelievable effortlessness and suppleness. Now he's doing this because he is extending the handle of the stick as far out into space as he could possibly get, and then re-hinging the wrist freely backwards like this. You have just got to work on getting the arm and wrist into this position instead of in this position. When you do that, you're cutting off so much speed. You're probably losing 30 to 50 yards just from that alone, not counting slice potential and angle of attack inefficiency from cutting it off and not extending that right arm and wrist like this. So again, I'm looking for a position way out in space, as far as I can get, and I want you to move your wrist this way. You're just really allowing the momentum of the club head to bend your wrist upwards and not get in the way of the circling club. And see how far you can pin your wrist back into an angle like this. And then you might just practice first with the stick. Hold it and hold it. And then you might try it with a short iron of yours. slowly first, because anytime you try to swing super fast, you tend to go back to the old habits that prevented you from getting speed in the first place. So you end up looking the opposite of Jake Knapp. You end up looking effortful with no speed. So we have powerless effort instead of effortless power. Now remember, this major difference between what Jake Knapp and most guys on tour are doing bonus tip to get so much power while more speed and distance out of your drives is in the finish. The big difference is they make a complete finish. The average golfer tends to cut the finish off very short and narrow. I see a lot of golfers who are struggling for distance. This is the end of their swing. Now, using this heavy Orange Whip training club, I'm going to show you how it's very easy to just practice swinging around to a full finish. It's unlikely that lack of flexibility has anything to do with this. It's more you've just gotten used to a certain way of swinging, and we're going to change that habit starting today. You can use your driver at home, but watch as I'm going to swing all the way, and I'm going to keep going until I can make this shaft and the orange head actually break this perpendicular line here. So here, if I'm perpendicular, my belly button's facing the target, chest is facing the target, and the club is pointing at the camber. It is perpendicular to my intended line of flight. And I'm going to try to just break through that by a few degrees, like this. You don't have to swing fast at first when you do this. I'm not looking for you to pull anything or injure anything. You can go very easily. See, I allowed the club to come all the way through and hit me in the back of the neck. Watch from this angle. Okay, and you're going to make it touch the collar about a 30-degree angle. Let's look at that one more time from this angle. Let the club almost bounce off of your collar and let it go past perpendicular as far as you can. Just like that. Hey, I'm glad you stayed around for the bonus tip, although this one will take a little bit of work. I think it's going to help you look a lot more like Jake Knapp in that effortless power and distance department. And that is this: your maximum speed is about 5 to 7 miles an hour. That's as hard as you can swing. It's about 5 to 7 miles an hour above your cruising speed, where you look kind of under control, in balance, and effortless, kind of like Jake Knapp looks in this video. There's a good reason for this, because in this video, while he's probably swinging 125 or possibly higher miles per hour, he's nowhere close to his maximum. That's why it looks so easy, because he really, from his perspective, he is swinging pretty easy. But the trick is that the only way you're going to raise your cruising speed, because your cruising speed is permanently attached to your maximum speed. So the only way that you're going to be able to move that needle upwards is by raising your maximum speed. So what do you got to do? You're not going to gain speed by going out and just practicing at your cruising speed every day. You're going to have to make swings that are all out, kind of like caveman swings. Now, make sure that you're warmed up. Make sure that you, if you're older, that you kind of work into this slowly. So I like to do swings where I'll go like a set of 5 or 6, where I might go 80%, 90%, 100%, and then the rest of them 100%. This way, if I feel anything that, about to twinge, or I feel something weird in my back, I can stop before I injure myself when I get to 100%. So I'm going to start this one at 80%. Okay, it's a good stout golf course swing, and now I'm going to find a little bit more by snapping the wrists and stepping over to the left foot a little stronger. I'm going to find some more speed. Okay, and I feel pretty good, so nice and loose. I'm going to go to 100% now. And now we're getting into the range pretty much where about it's as hard as I could possibly swing. Certainly harder than I would ever swing on a golf course for any kind of control, but we really want to stimulate that speed Anything that you can do, even if you can't go 100%, even if whatever you can do to swing above your comfort zone, faster than your comfort zone, is going to help raise your comfort zone, raise your cruising speed, little by little by little. So I want you to get out there and I want you to do explosive things on days that you're feeling good and loose, but remember to shut it down. If you feel anything tight, anything twinge, anything funky going on, shut it down and rest for the next couple of days after that. All right, and that's it. If you were to follow these tips and put into effect some of these drills I've shown you in this video, I'm quite positive that you're going to move your club head speed higher while your effort level looks lower. And that's what we're doing kind of with this thing we might call the Jake Knapp number line, where he's the best there is in terms of effortless power that at least I've ever seen. You're over here somewhere at the low point or maybe in the middle, and all you want to do is just improve by moving one or two numbers down that number line in that direction. I think it's going to be so worth the effort that you put into it because you're going to be hitting the ball a lot longer. Hey, thanks so much for watching all the way through to the end. I really appreciate you. Would you hit the like button if you got some value out of this video, and head over to my website, hititlonger.com, for hundreds of more great videos and articles that I'm sure are going to make you get better. Also, don't forget, I do personalized coaching both in person, through FaceTime, and through video analysis. So sign up for one of those, because we know that YouTube is not going to be the end all of your learning process. So as usual, I will either see you in the next video or I'll see you longer and straighter down the fairway. Everybody take good care.